from Melissa's Creations. Today I am bringing you some of the paper pumpkin alternates that I came up with for the September kit, Frights and Delights. I'm really excited to be part of the pop-up paper pumpkin blog hop. We are a group of demonstrators who pop up with paper pumpkin when there's something a little extra special about the kit. We love to bring you alternate projects so that you can take your kit and create lots of different items using the inspiration that we're showing you. So for this month's kit, the design project were these cute, adorable tags with these fun little goodie bags. I have filled mine with the Reese's Pieces, and I can't wait to give these out to all of my coworkers as little Halloween treats. So those are the suggested items, and it comes with all the materials for you to make those bags. Today I'm going to show you some alternate projects that I came up with using a lot of the materials from this kit. So we're going to dive into the kit and get out the pieces that we are going to need. I did not use any of the bags on this project. I thought about it. I did have a couple cut apart, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to use them or not, so I opted to not use them. I do have a couple of strips of the black tissue paper that was included in this month's kit, and I am going to use that on my very vanilla card, so I'm going to get those out. Of course, we're using dimensionals. I've already stamped and cut out the word spooky, so we just stamped this guy and cut it out on Whisper White cardstock for our orange card. I am going to need one of these for the back of the pumpkin on the orange card. And I used the purple labels on my sample for my orange card, but I think I want to use the orange labels this time. I really like how this shape looks, and we're actually going to use this side and cut it in the middle here. So I need 2 of those, and we are going to need 2 pumpkins. All right, so the materials that I have to make this spooky card right here, I have a pumpkin, and what I've done is I've taken a couple of glue dots and I have glued him to the back of a scrap piece of paper. I've punched 2 1-inch circles out so that they just fit over his face. I'm going to use this as a template when I go to emboss my page, just to make sure that I don't get my ink, my embossing ink, on the rest of the cardstock. So I'm using 1 pumpkin as a template, and this is the pumpkin that I'm actually going to be embossing for my second card. So I have a new pumpkin here that I'm going to put onto this card, and I have the silver piece that goes behind him to make his little reflective face. So we have that piece as well. I've already stamped and cut out the word spooky from the included paper pumpkin stamp set. I stamped this in pumpkin pie ink. And then I've taken 2 of the labels from the kit, and what I'm going to do is actually cut them in half on the score line, because I want to use these as the little background behind my pumpkin. I also have a piece of pumpkin pie cardstock here. This measures 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And I have a piece of basic black cardstock. This measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then finally I have my card base. It's Whisper White and it measures 4 1/4 by 11. I'm going to score it in the middle at 5 1/2. We're going to emboss on our pumpkin pie piece. And I have my embossing buddy here, and I'm just going to run that all over the front of that piece of cardstock so that I don't get any static cling and my embossing powder sticking in areas that I don't want it to stick. So I'm going to bring my template in, and I'm just going to gently set it where I want it to go. And I'm going to hold that down while I ink up the pumpkin. Okay, and then when I remove that template, I can pour on some silver embossing powder. And there's one of our faces. So you want to make sure that you emboss after each time you do your template. That way when you go to put your template down again, it doesn't smear that powder on there. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I wanted to leave kind of a blank space up here for my word spooky, and then I'm not going to emboss the bottom because most of that's going to be covered up. So I am going to carefully take this pumpkin off of my template. And I just want to try to make sure I don't rip him. If he gets a couple of bends in it, that's fine. And I'm not worried about the glue on the back side. I just want to make sure that his front is mostly okay. So now what I'm going to do for this guy is I'm going to get that Versamark all over his face. And we're going to emboss him in silver embossing powder. Now this is for our second card. I'm kind of doing this step at the same time so that I can go a little quicker with my cards. If you're just making the orange card, you can skip this step. So you want to be careful that if you do have glue dots on the back and you emboss it down on a flat surface, your glue dots are going to become very hot and sticky. So make sure that you don't pick that up with your hands until it cools off. I'm going to put another layer of the silver embossing powder on top of that. And then finally, I'm going to take the edge of my Versamark pad and I'm just going to draw some lines down the pumpkin. And I'm trying to get pretty thin lines and just a few. I don't want too many. I'm going to use my copper embossing powder to emboss those lines. All right, now that we have our pumpkin embossed, we're going to finish putting the card together. All right, so what I'm gonna do is take these labels that I cut in half, I'm gonna flip them over, and I'm going to stamp on them, and I'm going to color the outside edges with my pumpkin pie marker. Now, these already have an orange on them, but you can tell it's very different from my pumpkin pie. So I'm going to go ahead and color those in with my pumpkin pie marker. So I'm taking the thick tip of my marker, and I'm going to line it up on my grid sheet. And I'm just going to use the flat edge of the tip and draw a line all the way down. I'm going to do that on both long sides. So now I'm going to stamp my background, and I'm using the two tiny little stars from the Paper Pumpkin stamp set. I'm going to put them on the same block right next to each other. I'm using my Pumpkin Pie Classic Stampin' Pad, and we're just going to randomly stamp those stars all over. I have some of the washi tape from the annual catalog. I'm going to take a little bit of that, and I'm going to join these two pieces together. I'm going to use a few of our mini glue dots to adhere my pumpkin to my silver piece. I'm going to use some dimensionals to pop up this label that we've created onto our pumpkin pie piece. I'm going to take a little bit more of that washi tape and put it behind our label to tie in the black. Take our pumpkin and another dimensional. and pop him up right in the middle down here. And to adhere our spooky, I'm going to be using some of our mini dimensionals. I'm going to use some of our snail adhesive to adhere that to our black mat, and then I'm going to adhere that to our Whisper White card base. And the final touch, I'm going to take some of our gorgeous baker's twine that came in this kit, and I'm going to double it up and tie a bow. There we go, card number 1 is done. What do you think of this card? Leave me a comment below and tell me if you are team orange or team white and black. Okay, we're gonna move on to this card now. Now this card is pretty quick. We do need to get out the Big Shot to cut out one of these beautiful ovals, but other than that, it goes together pretty fast. So I'm going to use our Stitched Shapes framelits dies, and from the ovals, I'm using the second largest. So I have my magnetic platform, 1 cutting plate, my very vanilla scrap. I'm gonna put my oval right onto that and put my second cutting plate on top and run that through. So I have a scrap piece of basic black cardstock, and what I wanna do is cut out a piece that's large enough for the pumpkin to hang out on. We want his face background to be dark black. So I'm going to take a couple of our mini glue dots, and these were included in the kit. We're just gonna pick those up and glue the pumpkin, the back side of the pumpkin, straight down to some black cardstock. Now remember, you don't have to get all of him on the cardstock, you just need his face covered up. Then we're going to take some snips and we're going to trim around the black cardstock so that you can't see it on the other side of the pumpkin. I'm going to use some snail on the back of the pumpkin so I can use our beautiful baker's twine. And we're just going to do a couple of loop-de-loops. Now there's several different methods that you can use, but I think the fastest and easiest is just to run it around my fingers a few times. Let's do one more. And we'll trim that off. And then I'm going to bring it out into a loop so my knot, my 2 end pieces are in the middle. And then I'm just gonna slap that down right into that adhesive. And if you see an end, you can either trim it off or you can stick it onto itself. I'm just gonna trim it off there. Then I'm just gonna kind of fan them out a little bit. And I'm going to take a scrap piece of washi tape and put that right across the back just to hold them down and make sure they really don't go anywhere. All right, now I'm going to take a few dimensionals and pop that on top of my stitched shape. I'm going to take a sponge dauber that has some dark ink on it, and I'm just going to kind of antique the edges. Okay, and then on the back of that oval, I'm going to outline the whole oval with some snail because we're going to kind of use some of that included tissue paper in this month's kit to go around and kind of fan it out on the back of this oval. So I've cut 2 strips that were folded in half, about 1.5 inches or so wide. So I'm going to take, there's 2 sides. There's a really slippery, silky side, and then there's a more matte, kind of more textured side. I want that side to be facing out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off to a side here. I'm just going to gently place a little bit down. Okay, so right now it looks like that. And then as I go around, I'm going to fold it back on itself and kind of pleat it. And you have to really work with it to get it around the corners. And I don't care that if it's perfect or mishmash. The whole kind of point of this is to get some really fun and interesting texture. So I'm not trying to be careful, I'm just trying to work it around that oval. And when you join them together, you kind of want to make sure that the joined edge is tucked behind your old piece. Okay, now once you have that the way you want it, I'm going to turn this over, and I'm just going to take some scratch pieces of washi tape, and I'm just going to tape that all down. Before we put our embellishment on our card, we want to add just a couple more touches. The first is going to be stamping some of these beautiful crescent moons all over the edges of the card base. You want to make sure your card base opens the way that you want it to open. I have mine going this direction. With our Tuxedo Black Memento ink pad, I'm going to ink up that little crescent moon and stamp all over. Using our 1/2-inch circle punch and the included Boo foil stickers in the kit, I'm going to, from the edges, punch out some of these 1/2-inch circles so that I can put those on the card. Before I put those down, I'm going to add my fun embellishment so that I know how much room I have to play with. We're going to pop that up with some dimensionals, and this card is almost done. The dimensionals have a hard time sticking just to the washi tape, so you want to make sure that you put them mostly on the tissue paper. Now once you punch these out, it might be a little tricky to peel that backing off. So if it is, what I like to do is just slightly bend them, just a little bend to them, and then peel back one of the layers, and you can see it start to fray a little bit. Then you should be able to get in there enough to peel off the backing. And there we are, you guys. Card number 2 is done. Now the only difference really is I used that sponge dauber to add a little bit more texture and antiqueness to the edges of this card, but I'm leaving this card mostly free of that edging. I did edge the oval slightly, but I want you to tell me which one you like better, the one with the antiquing or the one without. And there we are, creators. There are the 2 alternate projects from the September 2018 Paper Pumpkin Kit, Frights and Delights. I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please give the video a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to click that bell icon so you can be notified when I upload new videos. You can follow me online at melissascreations.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/MKre8tions. You can also follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest with the handle @MKre8tions. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this alternates project video today, and don't forget to hop around to all of the other wonderful demonstrators participating in this month's pop-up blog hop. You can find that information by going into the description box below and clicking on my coordinating blog post link. That will take you to my blog post where you can read more about this project I made today, as well as click the next button to see all of the other wonderful projects in this hop. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.